Alrighty, so today is interview number 2. I have our contracts and billing manager at Fortis Industries, Fortis Native Group, PCI Infrastructure.
Multiple entities.
A lot of entities underneath our tribal umbrella, and I'll let Miss Brenda introduce herself real quick.
Hello, I'm Brenda Head. I'm the contracts and billing manager here at Fortis Industries and the above mentioned other entities that we deal with here. It's a pleasure to be interviewed by Bryce.
Well, thank you for taking the time. It really does mean a lot. So I'm just going to kind of, like I said, I'll go through the questions and, just answer them to the best of your abilities. And what will happen is, we'll kind of take what you give us and then it'll be, submitted into an even larger project with like my group and stuff like that. So, let's get started. So the first question is, describe your leadership style and how it has evolved over time.
Well, I would have to say my leadership style is just kind of easygoing, really. I don't, have a lot of rules or, processes that employees have to follow. As long as, they coordinate with me or communicate with me. Communication is really the biggest thing.
Right.
And that I strive for is letting me know, there's schedules or, appointments and that type of stuff. So pretty laid back, basically.
Yeah. So would you say that kind of that, has that always kind of been the way you've wanted to do it, or has it always been that way, or do you feel like it's changed?
I think it's kind of always been that way, just simply because of where I've worked in the past, where I've had managers who were what they call micromanagers,
right.
And nobody likes to feel like they're under somebody's thumb and watch constantly. So I want my employees to feel like they can come to me at any time, without having any kind of fear of, oh my God, I got to go ask her to take off, that type of stuff. So
definitely very, very open trust, and you kind of like there's a lot of you kind of create an environment where you can be open and friendly.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. So the second question is, what are the most critical decisions you make as a manager?
I guess as far as contracts go, just making sure that we comply with what's in the contract as far as, the period performance, our statement of work, funding, and that type of stuff. As far as billing goes, is to make sure, we're billing correctly, that we're not, overbilling or we haven't shorted ourselves. So it's just,
I know at times you also kind of have to manage like the funds that go to subcontractors and things like that as well, correct?
From time to time, right?
Yeah. Well, what strategies do you kind of use to help, to make it easier for your for the people you manage to collaborate and have like teamwork, especially let's say it's like bigger projects or things like that. What kind of strategies do you use?
I don't know that I really have any strategies.
Yeah.
I think it all goes back to communication, to make sure that they're understanding what it is they need to do to get the job done. If they have questions or they're unsure of something, I want them to be able to, come to me and say, hey, I don't understand this. What am I supposed to do? That type of stuff. So.
Yeah, just trying to help each other out along the way. But,
it's a, give and take.
Gotcha. So, I guess here's another, fun one. So, what are some tools you use to increase employee morale and productivity?
I don't really know the answer to that because because we don't really necessarily. I don't want to go and pat somebody on the back all the time, just, I do tell them on occasion, like through a review, say, hey, you are doing a good job, or, for particularly, with the size of contracts we have, or the number of contracts we have, and billing that, and keeping up with it, so, but but as far as some merit increases, that type of stuff.
Gotcha. So let's see. How do you navigate difficult conversations with employees?
It's always the same, communication. I mean, you can't be afraid to go talk to your employee.
Yeah.
You have to, have them understand that on occasion they'll make a mistake or something happened. You have to be able to go talk to them. It's not always easy, and you just have to talk to them like I'm talking to you now.
Right.
You can't, be ugly to them, or you just have to know the person and know how to talk to them is basically it.
Well, no, that's a great answer. So, well, how do you ensure that I guess your team aligns with the goals of like our organization? So I guess our job entirely is to obviously win more contracts and make more money, but how do you kind of keep, I guess, your team aligned with that kind of goal? It's like, I guess more is better, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying.
I don't know, just to make sure they have the right tools, for their job, and for them to understand how their job affects everybody else's job, and just to work together and just make sure everybody is on the same page.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess you kind of like clearly articulate, what are kind of the goals of each employee and like how, it all plays into the grander scheme of things, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. So, what are your desired attributes of the ideal employee?
That they're kind, that they're willing to work, they don't complain about because they have to work, they just always willing to help, so.
Yeah. Obviously trust probably plays a large factor into that as well, I'd imagine.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, how do you evaluate employee performance?
Well, with any company, I think, you have a standard form that you go through.
Yeah.
You have to take the time to sit down and write out your answers, and just know your employee, and just that of how they work, and whether or not they're doing a good job when you do your evaluation, and you know what you're going to say. So.
Yeah. What are the things that you look for? Is it like output? Is it more like, you're kind of just meeting the minimum, or like what are you kind of looking for whenever you are doing that? Like,
well, of course, I like to see that they meet the minimum, but also that they're, well, it's kind of hard to say with billing, because you are stuck with a schedule,
right.
And you're stuck with the amount that we do, but also it's like the timeliness of it.
Mm-hmm.
Are we getting them out in time, or what's causing the delay? Finding out what's causing a delay in getting an invoice, because some of our contracts may have a deadline. Oh, we have to have our billing in by the 5th of the month, or the 10th of the month. So just make sure that we're on time. So because the government does notice that type of stuff.
Right. So like the nature of, I guess, y'all's department, it really is deadline driven. Like it's extremely deadline driven. So
exactly.
As long as people are meeting those deadlines, then
yeah. So.
There's not a lot of complaints.
Well, no, there's not. And that's that knowing that they have a good rapport with our internal customers as well as the outside customers.
Gotcha. Okay. So this is kind of a lengthy one, but I'm gonna break it up into like 2 different sections. So it's how do you set clear expectations and accountability in a way that builds upon overall performance without discouraging employees. So I'll read it again because it's
okay.
long. So how do you set, how do you create accountability that I guess, betters the performance of your employees without discouraging them?
I mean, I guess it just all boils down to communication. You know, you have to have a good communication and rapport with your employee. I mean, you don't have to be a best friend with your employee. Just know that they can come and talk to you at any time for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, and encourage them one way or another to, you know, it's like, whether if they come to me and for some reason they say they're not happy with their job, you know, talk to them, find out why they're not happy with their job, and if they feel like that they've reached their potential here, you know, encourage them, you know, it's like, if they're not happy here, just make sure, you know, that they're happy elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know, don't try to tell them that they have to stay here, you know, or try to, you know, sure you want a good employee to stay, but you also want them to encourage them to reach their goal, whether it be here or elsewhere.
Gotcha. So, I'm going to ask you this, but I don't know if maybe you put somebody through this one or not, but as far as a performance enhancement plan, you know, have you ever had to put, you know, an employee through a performance enhancement plan, and what would be like, how would you approach that?
Well, no, I've never had to put anybody through that because...
Which is a good thing.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
Yeah. A former employee, you know, her thing was I could sit here and look her in the face and tell her one thing, and it would just go in one ear right out the other. She never heard what I said, so I always had to kind of reel her back in to say, "You didn't listen."
Right.
You know, or maybe I need to learn to, you know, how to better get across my point. So, you know, I need to work on myself as part of that.
But I guess would you consider putting somebody through, like, you know, a performance enhancement plan if you had to, you know, if they were
I guess
needed?
probably part of that, I guess, would be some type of training, letting them sit down and go through some type of, whether it be a training class or, I don't know, maybe speaking with HR, you know, potentially, or something to that effect, so.
Gotcha. So the next two are, you know, they're kind of just to round out the interview. So what is the most rewarding part of your job?
That's a difficult question. Working with Bryce.
Yeah, there we go. It's on record.
I don't know. The people here, I guess. You know, it's just it's working with everybody here. I guess. So.
The teamwork, and then kind of the laid back environment.
Exactly,
I would say most jobs I've ever had, this was probably the most laid back. I don't know about how it is over here.
Well, it is. I mean, it can get a little stressful at times, but for the most part, it is kind of laid back. So I do like that.
So what advice would you give someone aspiring to become a manager? I know you kind of covered that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a tough one for me to answer too, because I can't necessarily say I aspired to become a manager. I was just kind of evolved into the position, you know, because of attrition of employees here. You know, so we needed, you know, somebody stepping in and just be yourself and just continue to strive for what you want.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of interesting because, like, you know, in the last interview, they kind of said something similar, that you really don't go looking for it, that it honestly sometimes it just kind of comes to you.
It just kind of falls in your lap sometimes.
Yeah, and I guess it's a matter of just working hard at the things you're given.
Yeah.
And then at some point or another, you know, you may not be looking for management, but eventually it'll just kind of fall into your lap.
I mean, your work ethic is noticed, you know, by upper management, and how you portray yourself, and you know how you work, and you know that type of stuff, and that does help.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time, Ms. Brenda. Thank you so much.
No problem.